Success is not an event. It is a repeated mental pattern. It is built in silence, shaped in discipline, and reinforced through the thoughts you allow to live inside your mind every single day. It does not arrive suddenly like a stroke of luck, and it does not belong to those who wait for the perfect moment. It belongs to those who train their minds to think, act, and respond in ways that align with growth, power, and persistence. Every thought you repeat becomes a command. Every belief you entertain becomes a direction. And over time, these commands and directions form patterns so strong that they begin to control your actions without you even realizing it. This is where most people lose without understanding why. They do not fail because they lack ability. They fail because their mental patterns are weak, inconsistent, and filled with hesitation. They think about success occasionally, but they think about fear daily. They dream about growth, but they rehearse doubt over and over again. The mind does not care whether a thought is positive or negative. It only responds to repetition. Whatever you give it consistently, it accepts as truth. And once it accepts something as truth, it begins to shape your reality around it. This is why some people move forward with confidence even when the odds are against them, while others hesitate even when the path is clear. It is not the situation that defines them. It is the pattern of thought they have built over time. If you want to understand success, you must first understand control. Not control of the outside world, but control of the internal dialogue that never stops. The voice that speaks when no one is watching. The voice that either pushes you forward or holds you back. That voice is not fixed. It can be trained. It can be strengthened, but only if you are willing to discipline it with intention and consistency. Discipline of the mind is not about forcing yourself to think positive for a moment. It is about creating a system where powerful thoughts become automatic, where action becomes a default response instead of something you negotiate with, where excuses are no longer entertained and hesitation is no longer tolerated. This level of mental control does not happen by chance. It is built through repetition, through awareness, and through a refusal to let weakness take control. Most people are reactive. They wait for motivation before they act. They wait for confidence before they move. But those who understand the nature of success operate differently. They act first, and their emotions follow. They move with certainty even when they do not feel ready because they have trained their minds to prioritize action over comfort. This is what separates those who achieve from those who remain stuck in cycles of intention without execution. Your environment will try to shape your thinking. Your past will try to define your limits. People around you will project their fears onto your vision. But none of these forces are stronger than a mind that has been trained to focus on purpose. Once you take control of your mental patterns, external noise loses its power. Doubt may still appear, but it will not stay. Fear may still exist, but it will not decide your actions. There is a point where repetition transforms into identity. When you have thought a certain way for long enough, it stops feeling like effort. It becomes who you are. This is where true power begins. Because when success becomes part of your identity, your actions no longer need motivation. They are driven by alignment. You do what must be done because it matches who you have trained yourself to be. The process is simple, but it is not easy. It requires awareness in moments when it is easier to drift. It requires strength in moments when it is easier to give in. It requires consistency in moments when results are not visible. But this is where the transformation happens. Not in comfort, not in ease, but in repetition. You endure pressure. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you reinforce the pattern. Every time you act despite doubt, you strengthen the habit. Every time you refuse to quit, you send a message to your mind that weakness is no longer an option. These moments may seem small, but they accumulate. They build momentum, and over time, they create a force that becomes impossible to ignore. There is no shortcut to this process. No external factor can replace the work of building a strong mental foundation. You cannot rely on motivation because it is temporary. You cannot rely on circumstances because they are unpredictable. The only thing you can rely on is the system you create within your own mind. A system that pushes you forward regardless of how you feel. When your thoughts are aligned with discipline, your actions follow. When your actions are consistent, your results begin to reflect that consistency. And when your results improve, your belief becomes stronger. This creates a cycle that either works for you or against you. If your mental patterns are weak, the cycle keeps you stuck. If your mental patterns are strong, the cycle accelerates your growth. Everything begins with a decision, not a loud declaration, but a quiet commitment. A commitment to take full control of your thinking. A commitment to reject any thought that does not serve your purpose. A commitment to build habits that align with the future you are determined to create. This decision must be repeated daily because consistency is what transforms intention into reality. You are not limited by your circumstances. You are limited by the patterns you refuse to change. Once those patterns shift, everything else follows. Opportunities begin to appear differently. Challenges begin to feel manageable. Progress begins to feel natural. Not because the world has changed, but because your mind has. And when your mind changes, your direction changes. When your direction changes, your actions change. When your actions change, your life begins to move in a way that reflects strength, clarity, and control. Your thoughts shape your identity before your actions shape your results. Long before the world sees what you do, your mind has already decided who you are. Every belief you repeat, every image you hold, every silent conversation you entertain is quietly building the foundation of your identity. This process is constant whether you are aware of it or not. The mind is always absorbing, always interpreting, always forming patterns that define how you see yourself and what you believe you are capable of achieving. Most people try to change the results without ever confronting the thoughts that produce them. They focus on doing more, pushing harder, forcing action. Yet, they ignore the internal script that guides every move. This is where the struggle begins. Because actions without aligned thoughts are unstable. They lack consistency. They collapse under pressure. But when your thoughts are disciplined and intentional, your actions become natural, effortless, and powerful. Identity is not something you announce. It is something you repeatedly prove to yourself in your own mind. If you constantly think in terms of limitation, you begin to see yourself as limited. If you constantly question your ability, you begin to hesitate even when opportunities are in front of you. This hesitation is not a lack of skill. It is a reflection of an identity that has been shaped by doubt over time. The mind has accepted uncertainty as truth, and now it acts accordingly. The opposite is equally powerful. When you train your thoughts to focus on strength, growth, and certainty, your identity begins to shift. You start to see yourself as someone who takes action, someone who finds solutions, someone who moves forward regardless of obstacles. This shift does not require external validation. It does not depend on immediate success. It is built internally through repetition until it becomes the default way you see yourself. Thoughts are not harmless. They are instructions. Every repeated thought sends a signal to your subconscious telling it how to behave, what to expect, and what to avoid. Over time, these signals become automatic responses. You no longer think about whether you should act. You simply act in alignment with the identity your thoughts have created. This is why some people move with confidence even in uncertainty, while others remain stuck even when everything is in their favor. There is a critical moment that defines the direction of your life. It is the moment you become aware of your thinking. The moment you realize that not every thought deserves your attention. The moment you decide that your mind will no longer operate on autopilot. This awareness is the beginning of control, and control is the beginning of transformation. Once you understand this, you stop negotiating with negative thoughts. You stop entertaining ideas that weaken your identity. Instead, you become selective. You choose thoughts that align with the person you are determined to become. You repeat them, reinforce them, and give them space to grow. This is not about ignoring reality. It is about shaping your perception of reality in a way that empowers action rather than prevents it. Your environment will constantly test your thinking. There will be moments of failure, rejection, and uncertainty. In those moments, your identity is either reinforced or weakened. If your thoughts collapse under pressure, your identity follows. But if your thoughts remain strong, if you continue to believe in your direction despite temporary setbacks, your identity becomes unshakable. This is where real strength is built. Not in easy moments, but in moments where it would be easier to give up. Consistency in thought creates clarity and action. When your mind is focused, your decisions become faster. You waste less energy on doubt. You move with purpose instead of hesitation. This clarity is not something you find. It is something you create by training your thoughts to align with your goals. Without this alignment, even the best opportunities can feel confusing. With it, even complex challenges become manageable. Many people underestimate the power of internal repetition. They underestimate how much influence their daily thinking has on their future. They assume that results come from external effort alone. But effort without the right mindset is like movement without direction. It may feel productive, but it does not lead to meaningful progress. True progress begins when your thoughts and actions are working together toward the same objective. There is no instant transformation. Identity is built gradually through small but consistent mental shifts. Each time you choose a thought that supports growth, you strengthen the foundation. Each time you reject a thought that promotes fear or doubt, you weaken the old patterns. Over time, this process creates a new mental structure, one that supports confidence, discipline, and resilience. The goal is not perfection. The goal is control. Control over what you allow to stay in your mind and what you choose to remove. Control over how you respond to challenges and how you interpret setbacks. This level of control gives you stability. It ensures that your identity is not easily influenced by external circumstances or temporary emotions. As your identity strengthens, your actions begin to reflect it naturally. You no longer need to force yourself to act in certain ways. You no longer rely on motivation to get started. You act because it is who you are. This is where consistency is born. This is where progress becomes predictable, not because the path is easy, but because your internal foundation is strong enough to support continuous movement. Every result you achieve is a reflection of the actions you take, and every action you take is a reflection of the thoughts you have. Accept it. This chain cannot be broken. If you want different results, you must begin at the source. You must reshape the way you think, the way you see yourself, and the way you interpret the world around you. The power to change your identity is already within you. It does not require permission. It does not depend on circumstances. It only requires a decision to take control of your thinking and the discipline to maintain that control over time. Discipline of mind is more powerful than talent or luck. It is the invisible force that separates those who rise consistently from those who depend on chance. Talent may give you a head start, and luck may open a door, but neither can sustain progress without a controlled and focused mind. The truth is simple and often ignored without discipline. Talent becomes wasted potential, and luck becomes a temporary advantage that fades as quickly as it appears. The mind, when left uncontrolled, drifts toward comfort. It seeks ease, avoids pressure, and looks for reasons to delay action. This is the natural tendency, and it is exactly why so many people remain stuck despite having ability. They are not lacking intelligence or skill. They are lacking control over their own thoughts. And without that control, even the strongest talent loses its direction. Discipline begins where excuses end. It begins the moment you decide that your thoughts will no longer operate based on mood or circumstance. It requires you to act even when you do not feel like it, to focus when distractions are everywhere, and to persist when results are not immediate. This is not a one-time effort. It is a repeated commitment reinforced daily until it becomes automatic. Talent can make something easier, but it cannot make it consistent. Luck can create opportunity, but it cannot create readiness. Discipline, however, builds both consistency and readiness. It ensures that you show up prepared, that you continue when others stop, and that you improve even when progress feels slow. This is where real advantage is created, not in moments of ease, but in moments where discipline overrides the desire to quit. There is a clear difference between those who rely on talent and those who rely on discipline. The talented individual often waits for the right moment, the right feeling, the right conditions. The disciplined individual creates momentum regardless of conditions. They do not negotiate with their thoughts. They do not wait for motivation. They move because they have trained their mind to value action over comfort. The mind can either be your greatest asset or your greatest obstacle. If it is undisciplined, it will create doubt, amplify fear, and justify inaction. It will convince you that waiting is safer than trying, that comfort is better than growth, and that failure is something to avoid at all costs. But when the mind is disciplined, it does the opposite. It pushes you forward. It challenges your limits, and it transforms fear into a signal for growth rather than a reason to stop. Every moment of hesitation is a test of mental discipline. Every distraction is an opportunity to either lose focus or strengthen it. The difference is not in the difficulty of the task, but in the response you choose. Those who develop discipline understand that focus is not something you have. It is something you practice, and the more you practice it, the stronger it becomes. Luck is unpredictable. It comes and goes without warning. Those who depend on it are constantly waiting, hoping for something outside their control to change their situation. This creates a cycle of inconsistency where progress is dependent on external factors rather than internal strength. Discipline breaks this cycle. It shifts the source of progress from outside to inside. It gives you control over your direction regardless of circumstances. There is a level of power that comes from knowing you can rely on yourself, not your mood, not your environment, but your ability to act with consistency and focus. This power is built through discipline. It is reinforced every time you choose to stay committed when it would be easier to stop. It grows every time you ignore distractions and stay aligned with your purpose. The process is not easy, and it is not meant to be. Discipline is built in resistance. It is developed in moments where you must choose between what is comfortable and what is necessary. Each of these moments strengthens your control. Each decision to act despite resistance adds to your mental endurance. Over time, This endurance becomes a defining trait. It shapes how you approach challenges, how you respond to setbacks, and how you continue moving forward. Talent may attract attention, but discipline earns respect. Luck may create a breakthrough, but discipline sustains it. Without discipline, success becomes unstable. It rises quickly, but falls just as fast. With discipline, success becomes steady. It grows over time, reinforced by consistent effort and controlled thinking. The greatest limitation is not a lack of opportunity or ability. It is the inability to control your own mind. When your thoughts are scattered, your actions follow. When your focus is weak, your results reflect that weakness. But when your mind is disciplined, everything changes. Your actions become precise. Your focus becomes sharp, and your progress becomes inevitable. There is no external factor that can replace this internal strength. No shortcut that can bypass the need for discipline. It must be built, reinforced, and maintained. It requires awareness of your thoughts, control over your reactions, and commitment to your goals, even when the path is uncertain. Each day presents a choice to follow the easy path or to follow the disciplined path, to give in to distractions or to maintain focus, to wait for luck or to rely on effort. These choices may seem small in the moment, but they accumulate. They shape your habits, define your mindset, and ultimately determine your results. The power of discipline lies in its consistency. It does not depend on external validation or immediate outcomes. It operates quietly, building strength over time. And once it becomes a habit, it transforms the way you think, the way you act, and the way you approach every challenge you face. When discipline becomes part of your identity, talent becomes a bonus rather than a necessity, and luck becomes irrelevant rather than essential. Your progress is no longer uncertain because it is no longer dependent on factors you cannot control. It is driven by a system you have built within yourself, one that ensures continuous movement regardless of obstacles or delays. This is where true power exists, not in what you are given, but in what you choose to build within your own mind, what you repeatedly believe you eventually become. This is not a theory or a motivational phrase meant to inspire temporary emotion. It is a fundamental law of how the mind shapes reality. Every belief you hold, especially the ones you repeat without question, acts as a blueprint for your identity. Over time, this blueprint becomes so deeply embedded that it begins to guide your actions, influence your decisions, and determine the direction of your life without conscious effort. The mind is not designed to question what it hears repeatedly. It is designed to accept, store, and execute. When you tell yourself something once, it may pass like a thought. But when you tell yourself the same thing again and again, it transforms into a belief. And once it becomes a belief, it begins to operate as truth, regardless of whether it is accurate or limiting. This is where the real power lies. Because beliefs do not just sit in your mind, they actively shape your behavior. If you repeatedly believe that you are not capable, your actions will reflect hesitation. You will avoid opportunities, delay decisions, and second-guess your potential. Not because you lack ability, but because your belief has already decided the outcome. The mind works to stay consistent with what it accepts as truth. It will create patterns of behavior that align with your beliefs, even if those patterns keep you stuck. On the other hand, when you repeatedly believe in your ability to grow, to learn, and to overcome challenges, your actions begin to change. You take risks more willingly. You recover from failure more quickly. You move forward even when the path is unclear. This does not happen because the external world has become easier, but because your internal belief system has shifted. And once that shift occurs, everything begins to align with it. Beliefs are built through repetition, but they are reinforced through experience. Each time you act in alignment with a belief, you strengthen it. Each time you avoid action because of doubt, you reinforce limitation. This creates a cycle that either pushes you forward or holds you back. The longer this cycle continues, the stronger it becomes until it feels like a fixed part of who you are. Most people are not aware of the beliefs they are reinforcing. They operate on patterns formed over years of repeated thinking. Patterns influenced by past experiences, external opinions, and internal fears. These patterns run automatically, shaping decisions without conscious awareness. This is why change feels difficult. Not because it is impossible, but because it requires breaking patterns that have been repeated for a long time. The moment you become aware of your beliefs, you gain the ability to change them. Awareness creates distance. It allows you to observe your thoughts instead of being controlled by them. And once you can observe them, you can choose which ones to keep and which ones to replace. This is where transformation begins. Not with action, but with a shift in belief. Replacing a belief is not about saying something once and expecting immediate results. It is about repetition with intention. It is about consistently introducing new thoughts that support growth, and refusing to give power to thoughts that promote limitation. This process takes time, but it is effective. The mind responds to consistency. It adapts to what it hears most often. And over time, new beliefs begin to take the place of old ones. There will be resistance. The mind is comfortable with familiarity, even if that familiarity is limiting. When you introduce new beliefs, especially ones that challenge your current identity, there will be doubt. There will be moments where the old patterns try to take control. This is where persistence becomes essential. You must continue to reinforce the new belief even when it feels unnatural. Even when results are not immediate, every action you take is a reflection of what you believe. When your belief is strong, your actions are decisive. When your belief is weak, your actions are uncertain. This connection cannot be ignored. If you want to change your actions, you must first change the belief that drives them. Otherwise, any change in behavior will be temporary because it is not supported by your internal foundation. The environment around you can influence your beliefs, but it does not have to control them. You may hear doubt from others. You may face situations that challenge your confidence. But these external factors only become powerful when they are repeated internally. If you choose not to adopt them, they lose their influence. If you refuse to repeat them, they do not become beliefs. This level of control requires discipline. It requires constant awareness of your thinking. It requires the ability to interrupt negative patterns and replace them with thoughts that align with your desired identity. This is not about ignoring reality. It is about choosing how you interpret reality in a way that supports growth rather than limitation. Over time, repetition creates certainty. What once felt uncertain begins to feel unnatural. What once required effort becomes automatic. This is when belief transforms into identity. You no longer have to convince yourself of who you are becoming. You simply operate from that place. Your actions align without resistance. Your decisions become clear. Your direction becomes focused. The power of belief is not in a single moment. It is in the accumulation of repeated thoughts over time. Each thought may seem small, but together they form a structure that defines your life. This structure can either support your growth or limit your potential. The choice lies in what you choose to believe and how often you choose to repeat it. Nothing changes until your beliefs change. And once they do, everything else begins to follow. Victory begins the moment your mind refuses to accept defeat. Not when circumstances improve. Not when others start believing in you. Not when the path becomes clear, but in the exact moment you make an internal decision that failure is no longer an option you will entertain. This decision is quiet, often invisible to the outside world. Yet, it carries a force strong enough to reshape your entire direction. Defeat does not start in reality. It starts in thought. Long before a person quits, their mind has already surrendered. It begins with small doubts repeated often enough to feel real. It grows through hesitation, through fear of failure, through the habit of questioning one's own ability. These patterns build slowly until they create a mindset that expects loss before the effort even begins. This is why so many people never reach their potential. They are not stopped by obstacles, but by the belief that those obstacles are stronger than them. Refusing to accept defeat does not mean ignoring difficulty. It means redefining your relationship with it. It means seeing challenges not as barriers, but as necessary resistance that strengthens your ability to move forward. When your mind reaches this level of understanding, pressure no longer breaks you. It sharpens you. Setbacks no longer stop you. They redirect you. There is a difference between experiencing failure and accepting defeat. Failure is an event. It is temporary, specific, and limited to a moment in time. Defeat, however, is a decision. It is a state of mind that says the effort is no longer worth it, that progress is no longer possible, that the goal is no longer within reach. The moment your mind accepts this, your actions begin to align with it. Effort decreases, focus weakens, persistence fades. But when your mind refuses to accept defeat, something shifts. You continue despite the evidence. You act even when results are delayed. You hold your position when it would be easier to step back. This is not blind stubbornness. It is controlled determination. It is the understanding that progress is not always visible and that persistence is required long before success appears. The mind has a natural tendency to protect you from discomfort. It will suggest stopping when things become difficult. It will create reasons to avoid risk, to delay action, to choose safety over growth. These suggestions often feel logical, even necessary. But if you follow them consistently, they lead to stagnation. Growth requires discomfort, and refusing to accept defeat means choosing that discomfort repeatedly, even when your instincts push you in the opposite direction. Every challenge you face is a test of your mental standard. It asks a simple question. Will you continue, or will you stop? The answer is not given through words, but through action. Each time you choose to continue, you strengthen your ability to resist defeat. Each time you give in, you reinforce the habit of stopping. These moments may seem small, but they accumulate. They shape your identity over time. There comes a point where persistence becomes automatic, where continuing is no longer a struggle but a default response. This is the result of repeated decisions to refuse defeat. It creates a mindset that does not look for exits. It looks for solutions. It does not focus on what is missing. It focuses on what can be done. This shift in perspective changes everything because it directs your energy toward progress instead of limitation. External circumstances will always fluctuate. There will be moments of uncertainty, moments of failure, moments where progress feels slow or non-existent. If your mindset is tied to these conditions, your performance will rise and fall with them. But if your mindset is anchored in the refusal to accept defeat, your consistency remains stable. You continue regardless of what is happening around you. This level of mental control is not built overnight. It is developed through repetition, through awareness, and through a commitment to maintain your standard even when it is difficult. It requires you to observe your thoughts, to recognize when doubt begins to take hold, and to interrupt it before it grows stronger. This is not about eliminating negative thoughts completely. It is about refusing to give them authority. Authority belongs to the thought you act on. You may feel doubt, but if you act with determination, your behavior reinforces strength. You may feel fear, but if you continue moving forward, your actions weaken that fear over time. The mind adapts to what you repeatedly do, not just what you feel. This is why action is essential. It translates your decision into reality. There is a certain clarity that comes with refusing defeat. Decisions become simpler. You no longer waste time debating whether to continue. That option is already removed. Your focus shifts entirely to how you will continue, how you will adjust, how you will improve. This eliminates hesitation and directs your energy towards solutions instead of excuses. Excuses are often the final step before defeat is accepted. They provide a reason to stop, a justification for inaction. They make surrender feel acceptable. But when your mind refuses defeat, excuses lose their power. They are recognized as distractions, not solutions. This awareness allows you to move past them without losing momentum. The strength of your mindset determines the consistency of your actions, and the consistency of your actions determines your results. When your mind is firm in its refusal to accept defeat, your actions remain steady even under pressure. This steadiness creates progress even when it is slow. And over time, that progress builds into results that reflect your persistence. Everything begins with a decision, but it is sustained through repetition. The decision to refuse defeat must be reinforced daily in both small and significant moments. It must become part of how you think, how you respond, how you operate. Once it reaches this level, it becomes an identity rather than a choice. At that point, challenges no longer feel like threats. They become part of the process. They are expected, accepted, and used as opportunities to strengthen your position. This perspective removes fear from the equation and replaces it with focus. It allows you to move forward with clarity regardless of what stands in your way. The moment your mind truly refuses to accept defeat, the outcome is no longer uncertain. The timeline may vary. The path may change, but the direction is fixed. Every action you take aligns with progress, and every challenge you face contributes to your growth. And now you understand what most people spend their entire lives trying to figure out. Success was never outside of you. It was never hidden in luck, never reserved for the gifted, never controlled by circumstances. It was always being shaped in the one place you either control or you surrender. Your mind. Every thought you repeat has been building your identity. Every belief you accepted has been directing your path. Every moment you chose discipline or distraction has been deciding your future long before results ever appeared. Nothing has been random. Nothing has been accidental. It has all been the result of patterns you allowed to exist. But this is where everything changes. Because the moment you become aware of this power, you are no longer a victim of your past thinking. You become the architect of your future. You gain the ability to rebuild, to reshape, to redefine who you are at the deepest level. Not through wishes, not through temporary motivation, but through controlled, repeated, intentional thought. You now know that success is a mental habit. That identity is formed in silence before it is proven in action. That discipline of mind outweighs talent and destroys the need for luck. That what you believe repeatedly becomes who you are. And that victory begins the moment you refuse completely and absolutely to accept defeat. This is not information to admire. This is truth to apply. From this moment forward, your standard must change. You cannot go back to unconscious thinking. You cannot allow doubt to repeat itself without challenge. You cannot allow fear to sit in your mind and grow unchecked, because now you know what it leads to. And knowing this, you carry a responsibility to think stronger, to act sharper, to live with intention. There will be moments when it feels easier to return to old patterns, moments where discipline feels heavy, where progress feels slow, where results feel distant. But those are the exact moments that define everything. Because in those moments, you are either reinforcing your old identity or building a new one. There is no middle ground anymore. You are either training your mind for success or you are allowing it to fall back into patterns of limitation. Every thought matters. Every decision counts. Every action adds weight to the identity you are creating. And once that identity is formed, your life will follow it without resistance. So take control. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Now decide that your mind will no longer be a place where doubt lives freely. Decide that discipline will no longer be optional. Decide that your beliefs will no longer limit your potential, but expand it beyond what you once thought possible. Because when your mind becomes focused, your actions become unstoppable. When your beliefs become strong, your path becomes clear. And when your identity aligns with success, nothing in this world can hold you in one place for long. You are not waiting for success. You are becoming it.